Peggle. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Ferret64 podcast with me, your host, Yemmy the Ferret. Ferret64 is, of course, the one-stop shop for video game news, occurrences, first impressions, and so much more. But today, it seems like we're just going to be doing first impressions. I have a very busy weekend, and I don't want to spend the entire weekend worrying about when or how I'm going to edit this podcast. And I wanted to put out a podcast because there were a couple games that came out this week that I feel like I really want to talk about. But we just won't be getting into any news or what's coming soon this week. So sit back and relax, and let's talk about what I've been playing this past week. First thing I want to talk about today is Pokemon ZA or Z2A or ZA. Pizza. Pokemon ZA. So this came out on, Thursday, and I haven't been able to play a lot of it, so this section is probably not going to be as long as maybe you were hoping for, but I can say that I do have some thoughts about the first, couple hours of the game. The stuff that I like about it is I like the city setting. I think the rooftop access and the underground and the main floors and the battle areas and the wild areas, it's a cool idea. It's a cool concept. I like that. I like the exploration. I enjoy just really the entirety, like the place itself is cool. I like it. It is a lot of the gray buildings and brown buildings or whatever all in a row, but I think that the way that they set it up is pretty cool. I do like that a lot. Where the game, which I had this worry going into it, where the game does kind of suffer is just in the textures on the buildings. There are several times where you are really close to what is supposed to be like a balcony or something jutting out of the side of the building, and it'll just be flat, like a PNG or JPEG flat surface. And it just clashes kind of just so poorly with the rest of the game, where it's like all this colorful animations and Pokemon and stuff like that. And you just have this like stale standard just wallpaper essentially on these buildings at times. And there are some buildings that do pop out a bit, have some better textures on them, but when you're going around the city and you're not supposed to be looking at the buildings, you're supposed to be looking at the Pokemon or whatever, that's where you really notice that they skimped on these balconies and fences and stuff like that. It's just stuck to the wall as like a JPEG. And the most egregious spot that I found was right at the opening. You can go past the entrance to the city. You're at the train station. You go past and you can look around, and that whole line of buildings is just all flat JPEGs. And they are selling this game for $10 more on the Switch 2. It's $60 on the Switch 1, and it's $70 on the Switch 2. I will say the graphics look better than the Switch 1 version of the game. That's not in any doubt. The problem here lies that even though the game's lighting and stuff like that look better, the textures and the overall aesthetics are just flat, and it just falls flat. Where you have this city that you should be, I mean, it's really not that big of a city, in all honesty. Like, I looked at the map, it's it's relatively big, sure, but it's not like this huge area like Arceus or Sword and Shield or Scarlet and Violet. Like, it is a city. I just feel like you should be putting more effort, more work into this town, like making sure that all the buildings are unique and it's not just a copy-paste pattern on them, and the things that are on these buildings should be jutting out and giving dimension to these areas. So that's my main, little complaint here, because the rest, I mean, I guess not little, but the rest of my experience with the game has been really fun. Like, even though there's this huge tutorial section at the start of the game where it's like, this is how you battle Pokemon, this is how you catch Pokemon, etc., etc. Like, I get it. They have to teach those things just in case you're someone who hasn't played a Pokemon game in a while, or they're introducing these new mechanics while also being fed older mechanics as well. Like, I get it. Like, I'm not going to sit here and complain for 5 hours that there's a tutorial for the game. But at the same time, it would be nice to maybe have the option to skip the basics and go right to the new stuff, or speed past those story missions that are teaching you things and just go to the things that are essentially new, right? Because the main thing that I think most people are going to be is something. The main thing that I think most people are going to be confused about, or it's going to be the new thing to people, is the new battle system and catching Pokemon just by willy nilly throwing Pokeballs at them. Right? That was not in Scarlet and Violet, and it was not in Sword and Shield, but it was in Legends Arceus. Legends Arceus, I don't think that sold as well as most of the other Pokemon games, but it had the system of just free aiming your Pokeball and throwing and trying to catch something, which was a fun system. And then later on, you could just throw the Pokeball out and have the Pokemon appear for you. Now, they did change that in this game, which I feel like you should still be able to aim your Pokeball and throw it, but you really can't in the game. You have to lock on to either a wild Pokemon, the other trainer's Pokemon, or once you have your Pokemon out of their Pokeball, you can aim at like a pile of rocks or a pile of crystals or some vines and have them use moves on those things to take them out of the equation. And it's a bit more restrictive than I was hoping for, even though I enjoy the battle system and I enjoy the open world stuff that you're doing with your Pokemon. It does give more life to your Pokemon partners. At the same time, I could see it being a bit better, a bit improved in a lot of different areas. And I felt like Arceus was kind of was almost there. It was like right there. It just lacked in like I felt like I kind of fell off of that game about halfway through, because it was just like, yeah, it's just the story wasn't really moving it forward. Whereas with this one, it's like, okay, you start as rank Z in this league, and you have to make it to rank A, and you got to learn all the Mega Evolution stuff and all that crap. And it's like, that's a good starting point for this story. I mean, obviously there's more going on because it is a Pokemon game, so there's always got to be more going on, got to be a rival faction, et cetera, et cetera. And I just feel like this game has probably a more interesting story than most Pokemon games in the past now. And I think it does have a better battle system than what we've gotten for a while now. Like, I played Pokemon Sword and Shield last year, or I'm sorry, earlier this year. Gosh, earlier this year. It feels like last year. Earlier this year, and I thought it was good. Like, it kind of took that Pokemon formula and brought it to the Switch. And I was hoping that they were going to keep those changes from Arceus and just put it into the mainline Pokemon games. Now, obviously, I guess some people might be hot and cold with that, changing the game from being a strictly turn-based combat system to a more action-based combat system. But Arceus was still pretty much turn-based at the end of the day. At least with this game, ZA, it is more of just like I can use Tackle, I'll use Tackle. Oh, I can use Leer right after that, I'll use Leer. Oh, I can use Mud Slap at the same time, I'll use that. It's very much like, okay, just press all the buttons while you're fighting. But there is some strategy to it as well. You want to make sure you use the right Pokemon for the job, which is kind of the usual. So yeah, I mean, starting off in the game, it's not like it's bad by any stretch of the imagination. There are just some things that I really feel like could be done with the game to really spice it up, and I'm not someone who's like a Pokemon purist, but I'm also not someone who's really wanting a huge change in Pokemon. But I would say that if you're going to go for this style of game, this style of this style of whatever, you're going to want to just kind of change it up enough so that it just has a distinct flavor to it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's almost there. It's right there. The combat system is fun at the end of the day, but at the same time, like, yeah, but I can't like instruct my Pokemon to dodge. I can't instruct my Pokemon to move around on the battlefield. They kind of just stay where they stay. Like, you can move around and you can tell them to do whatever you want. Sometimes they'll follow you around, but they're not dodging. You can't dodge with your Pokemon. At least I don't think so, because when you're commanding your Pokemon, it's just the face buttons on the controller with the different moves on it. And if you unlock it, you do roll with your character, but I don't believe it rolls or makes your Pokemon dodge. It still has that system of like, well, it has a percentage of missing and it has a percentage of hitting, So yeah, at the end of the day, for first impressions, I think that is it going to be a good Pokemon game that I'm willing to sink hours into? I think so. I think at the end of the day, it is going to be a game that I'm going to find enjoyment in. And I guess the big question right now is, you know, the Switch 2 version, is that worth the extra $10? And right now, like, I mean, I do see the improvements in the graphics and the frame rate and the characters and whatnot, but at the same time, it still looks like a Switch 1 game with the buildings and the skyboxes and even some of the more like natural things in the game, like grass and trees. Like it's being held back by that Switch 1 version because they obviously were developing the two versions in tandem. But the thing I will say, another positive thing, is there is a good amount of customization with your characters. I feel like these are the most unique looking Pokemon characters yet so far. I mean, just like the people you meet in the game already are all like the 4 or 5 people I've met have been very different. And even the NPCs as well are very unique looking. And Pokemon games, a lot of times you'll, especially with like old school ones too, like on the Game Boy and stuff like that, you'll meet a lot of the same looking characters, and it's like, oh, boy number 1 wants to fight you. You know, Neil the dog breeder wants to fight you, and then you'll fight them, and then the next guy will be like the same character model, but it's like old man wants to shake things up, you know. Like something like that. And even with Sword and Shield, I didn't play Scarlet and Violet, but even with Sword and Shield and Arceus, it had this problem of just like the same looking NPCs fighting you and battling you over and over and over again, where it does seem like with this one, they are making more of a conscious effort to make sure that each character looks pretty unique. And in this one, like I said, the few people that I've met so far have looked unique, and that's a good thing because, you know, I would rather fight someone new every time than just like the same person with the same outfit on, but maybe they have a different eye color, or their hair is styled differently, or they have a hat on, you know, something like that. So yes, so all in all, it's fun so far. I don't know if I can fully like recommend the Switch 2 version. You know, it is an improvement, it is, but at the same time, like, you're still having these repeating textures on the buildings, and you're still having like some of the odd quirks of what would be on a Switch 1 version of the game. But that's not to say that's not, I guess that's not to say it's not worth it, but at the same time, it's like, you know, like, use your own, you know, your own mind, right? Like, I'm just here saying, like, the game's fun. It just has some things that I'm kind of annoyed with. Well, maybe not annoyed with, but I just feel like they could do more with. And right now, you know, it's just kind of like on the edge. It's on the edge. So maybe the next Pokemon game will be the one that pushes things further. But at the same time, like, if this is another spin-off game, because it's, you know, Pokemon Legends ZA, that Legends thing is like a code name for like the spin-off series, right? That means that the next mainline Pokemon game, which will be a dual release, is probably going to go back to a turn-based system, most likely, maybe a hybrid, something like that. But I guess we'll have to wait and see, because that's probably going to be like at least 4 or 5 years away. I mean, they already announced DLC for this game, you know, so we'll probably be getting some support for this one for at least 2 or so more years until they announce, like, hey, the next Pokemon game is coming. So yeah, there you go. And I guess the other telltale sign that this is a side game and not a main game is the fact that they did not release a Pokemon card pack alongside the release of the game. The new packs came out like a couple months later, it seemed, or not months later, but months earlier it came out. So yeah, you know, but like I said, use your own discretion, you know. I'm saying, like, right now it's like, you know, it's good. Like, I would give it a thumbs up, but at the same time, like, I'm kind of in the middle of, like, I can't really super recommend this one, but at the same time, like, I am having a good time with it. So, you know, decide for yourself. That's all I'm trying to say. On the opposite end of the spectrum, what you should buy right now is Ball Pit, or Ball X Pit. I believe it is pronounced Ball Pit. The X is kind of there just to kind of be, I don't know, cool. But Ball X Pit is very good. I am loving this game right now. What it does is it takes the Vampire Survivors formula of auto shooting and picking up XP to level yourself up, and it also combines it with a ball breaker kind of game, where you are, hitting a ball and knocking out pieces. But instead of it being like bricks or something like that, it's enemies. You're knocking out enemies, and they take multiple hits, of course, but the goal is to level up your character and combine your balls to make the ultimate balls and take out the enemies. So you can take like a ball that has bleed on it and combine it with a ball that's made of fire, and now you have a Bleed X fireball. It does two things in one. There are also special combos that you can make, mega evolutions or whatever they're called, which is funny because we're just talking about Pokemon. But these big evolutions are like you take a vampire ball and you mix it with a bleed ball, I believe, and that makes a leech ball. So it kind of does exactly the same thing as the bleed and the vampire combined, but it also like causes more bleeding, and like it causes like a mini ball to pop out and stuff like that. So there's a whole bunch of things that go on with these ball combinations, and the best combinations are going to get you through to the end. And right now I have beaten the first bone pit area several times now with a couple of different characters, and now I've finally moved on to the next area, even though I've had it unlocked for quite some time, which is like this winter area that has like ice demons. So the first area is all skeletons. Like there's regular skeleton guys. There's like these little king guys who have the chance to drop coin. There's just different versions, like in different lengths of these blocks, and they're steadily falling down like a Star Wars credit roll or even like a regular brick breaker game. And, obviously you want to destroy the enemies before they get to you. And if they get too close to you, they can attack and hit you with their carts. I guess I'll call them carts. So, the goal is to essentially to kill them, level up, and then fight the boss. Do you remember a game called Arrow a Row, which I played last year? I talked about it last year. It was a game that was an endless runner kind of thing. Not really runner, but like you shot arrows in a straight line and you guided your little arrow guy on a surfboard or a sword board. And every so often you would fight a boss. It would be like 3 tiers. There was the first tier boss who was like level 30. There's a second tier boss, level 50. Next tier is 100, right? And you wanted to make sure that you leveled up your character enough to make it through, and it was pretty difficult. With Ball X Pit, it kind of has the same structure where it's like, okay, you fight through enemies and you get to tier 1, and it's like the first like mini boss. And then you get to tier 2, and it's like a little bit more difficult mini boss. They start throwing more enemies at you. And then you get to tier 3, and that's like the main boss. Like, usually what happens is the entire thing gets flipped upside down. So instead of you scrolling upwards, the boss is now lurching its way towards you, or maybe staying in one place. And that's the cool thing too. So these boss fights essentially turn the entire formula of the game upside down and goes, yes, you're going to be the one going backwards now. So essentially, as the role of a treasure hunter, you're just trying to gather treasure, get resources, level up your character, and get to the bottom of this endless pit. So what happened was a giant ball of fire hit this city and like sunk it into the ground. So I'm guessing the final area is going to be some sort of like, in the city, like the people have mutated or something like that, something creepy. Zombies, maybe? But, the second area is like this ice area, so you got a little bit of ice physics. There's some icy patches that make you slide while you're running around. Also, the enemies start stacking on top of each other. So when you destroy one cart and it just kind of drops down, there's 2 more that destroy in that stack. Pretty cool. They've also have these new armor plates on the front and sides and back, so you have to aim your balls to really do damage to them. Now, there are some metas that you can do while playing the game, which I have found out, and it's pretty easy to figure these things out. One of the best things is to have the one where balls go through enemies, and then there's also a thing that you can combo with that where, if a ball hits the back of the stage, it immediately goes right back to you and hits any enemies on the way back to you. So now not only do you have the double, essentially the damage going through the enemies instead of having to bounce off of walls and stuff, coming back as well as like a double damage, a double whammy there. It comes back and just, destroys the enemies on the way back. So that is a good combination for the first part of the game, of course. And I mean, the second part of the game, I do tend to try and mix things up as best as I can. So I'm not always just using the same things. But there are, like I said, there's a meta to the game where it's like, okay, this is probably the best idea is to use these ghost balls and stuff like that to do the most amount of damage, because you can get overwhelmed pretty easily, as I learned. If you're not prepared for that third phase of the battle, like you will most likely get overrun, and it is a part of the learning experience as well. And the other thing that I love about the game is how you build up your resources. You have like this hub area and you build like wheat fields and forests and rock pits. And then there's also buildings for unlocking new characters and making and giving yourself permanent stat boosts. And what you need to do is you actually need to aim your characters at them, and almost like a ball breaker, you shoot them out and they bounce around the stage like the DVD logo, going from corner to corner for about 10 seconds or so, and they gather all the resources, and then it refreshes. They have to wait like a minute or two for it to refresh, but that'll give you resources and help build more buildings to unlock more characters and upgrade things. It's a really interesting system. It's a bit random too, so you got to kind of be a little bit more mindful of what you're doing, especially when you want to do something specific on the map. But yeah, I mean, it's just cool. The goal is to get to the end of each area twice to get 2 gears, and then you move down to the next stage and rinse and repeat. And so far, my favorite character right now is the Repentant. He's a pretty good character. There's also the base like knight character. There's a dual character who they shoot. So wherever you're aiming, it's almost like ice climbers from Smash Brothers or ice climbers. And essentially, if you're aiming to the right, the other person is aiming to the left. So they just shoot the opposite direction that the other one person is aiming. So lots of ability to do tons of damage, especially if you have a bounce charm on you that makes the balls have more damage the more they bounce. Like that's a good combo there. Another character that I unlocked was the Sheriff. He shoots a lot faster. And each of these characters also starts out with their own special ball. So the first guy starts off with a bleed ball. The Sheriff starts off with a fireball. The Repentant guy starts off with an ice ball. It's just the baseline things. And you also have these things called baby balls, which are the small, like regular, like brick breaker balls that just kind of ricochet around. They don't do anything special. They just do damage, essentially. So there's a lot of cool stuff going on that I really am enjoying. The music is great. The pixel graphics are fun. This is definitely a full recommend for me. And actually, this is getting 2 thumbs right now. Which is a rare thing for this podcast. Usually, if I'm recommending something, it's like, yeah, I recommend this. Ghost of Yote or Battlefield 6, I recommend this. I'll give it a thumbs up. Ballx Pit is giving 2 thumbs up right now, and I'm not even halfway through the game. So I would say definitely pick this game up if you enjoy Vampire Survivors, if you enjoy ball breaker games, if you enjoy roguelites, if you enjoy just good games. This is one that should be on your radar. It should have been on your radar for some time, and it is time to pick it up. It's only like I said, it's like well, I said this during my stream, but it's like $15 or so. Like it's not even that bad of a price tag. And I'm sure it'll go on sale eventually, but I do feel like this is one that you could comfortably spend $15 on and get way more than your money's worth. Next up, I finished A Plague Tale Requiem on stream this past week, and I do have some thoughts about it. Honestly, I like the first game better by about an entire point. I like the first game a bit better. I think that the sequel here just gave you way too many offensive capabilities, and I know a lot of people will be like, well, that's not a bad thing, getting more offensive capabilities, that's not a bad thing. In a game like this where you're fighting like a group of enemies and that group is like 5 deep, like giving you this crossbow that's an insta-kill on almost every enemy who isn't armored all the way, and giving you the upgrade to retrieve arrows from enemies, so you essentially have unlimited arrows. It's just a recipe for an aggressive play style, and so that's what I did. Like I said, you know what? I'm not gonna pants around here. Is that a right word? I'm not gonna prance around here and try and hide and distract enemies. Like that's what they want you to do for like the first part of the game, but then they give you that crossbow and they give you more things to help out with enemies with helmets on and armor sets on. And once you get that crossbow and you start to level that thing up, that was really like I barely used the sling after that, unless it was for puzzle solving. So yeah, if you don't know Plague Tale Requiem, sequel to Plague Tale Innocence, it's pretty much the same idea where you're playing as Amicia, who is the sister and protector of her brother Hugo, who has what's called the macula inside him. And what it's doing is it's kind of like eating him from the inside, and he's these rats are like this sentient like horde of beings that is he's either trying to control them or they're trying to control him at times, and he's reaching these stages of the macula's growth inside of him. So everything seems peachy keen at the beginning of the game because of the events from the first game, but then very quickly things go south when Hugo summons the rats and they start to take back over his body, which on paper it's good, like the story is good. My other problem with the game is that it fluffed this story out. Like there are some chapters that I feel like could have been completely axed from this game, and we would be better off. Like maybe not better off, but like like these chapters where they're talking about things that happened before. Oh, this was the first protector, and they want you to think that it's like something that's really interesting. But at the end of the day, while I was playing the game, I was like, yeah, this is like nothing about this is actually is actually tying into the story itself. Like, is it interesting? Maybe. Is it cool to see what happened to this other protector and other child that was infected with the macula? Sure. But at the same time, I could really just not give a shit about this because it doesn't even matter for the rest of the game. Like they even try and say like, oh, the last protector, they paved the way for us, but it's like, no, they didn't. They did nothing for you. They failed. They literally failed. Like the only thing that it showed you was the fact that the protector needs to be by the person with macula. And it's like, well, duh. Duh. Yeah, and the other thing too is let's see. I talked about the graphics, talked about the story and the fluff. Yeah, I just thought that the game, just the pacing was kind of up and down. It just didn't really have a great pace in my opinion, and I think that's because of all the fluff sections in the game. Like I don't mind walking around a beautifully rendered city with these beautiful graphics and nice music playing. Like I don't mind doing that. But when it happens so often, it's just kind of like, okay, here we go again. We're walking around this city just to wait for it to be destroyed, or this town to wait for it to be destroyed, because that's essentially what's going to happen to every single place that you go to. The rats are going to infest it. Something's going to happen, and the rats are going to pop out, and they're going to kill everyone. And it's like it's not that surprising anymore now, is it? It's not. It's just not surprising. And like, yeah, I mean, the graphics are great. The rat technology. Yeah, the rat technology, I'll say it, is off the charts in this game. And you know me, I love like little stupid AI things where it's like AI controlled like rats and stuff like that. Like they did a good job with that stuff. Like I'm not kidding around with that stuff. Like the waves of enemies and how the rats react to the light and stuff like that. It all is really nice and it all looks amazing. Graphically, this game is one of the best looking games that we've played. Facial animations are off the charts. Voice acting is really good in the game. Like this, the gruff and grime of these areas, they just feel lived in. Like when the rats come around, like these bodies, they are very high detail. There's really just like a lot of good things to say about this game, but unfortunately, it's a lot more substance over. I'm sorry, it's a lot more style over substance. There's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of fluff in the game. There's a lot of sections that are just kind of like meandering around. It almost reminds me of Gears 5 because there's so many sections of Gears 5 where you're just walking around with your earpiece up like, hey, Anya, I'm walking around this fucking factory here. And it's like, okay, great. But where's the gameplay? And I was kind of like thinking about that while playing this game where it's like, okay, I'm walking around, I'm following these statues, I'm walking around the town, looking at these stalls. Like it's all nice world building at the end of the day. But also, can we just get this story rolling? And I felt like there was a big patch of time where it's like you're trying to find a boat with this Arnold guy, and up until like when the rats invade this this midsummer type place, like that's kind of where the game lost me, and it kind of got me back in for the final half or the final parts of the game. But at the end of the day, it was just like, yeah, it just wasn't quite there for me. Like, it gets a lot of brownie points and a lot of points for the graphic fidelity and all that stuff, but at the same time, it loses points for all the fluff and stuff in the game as well. Also, I'll be honest, the writing in the game, like, even though the voice acting is great, the writing was just not good. I do not want to hear a character reply with yes any more times, okay? I cannot take that. I can also not I also hate whisper talking, okay? I do not need that ASMR in my fucking ears 24/7, okay? When Amicia and Hugo or whoever, Lucas or whatever, are hiding, they're right by an enemy and they're going, Lucas, watch out for that enemy. He's right there in front of you. It's like they would definitely hear that. I'm literally right next to them. Plus, I hate hearing that ASMR type, like, whispery voice type thing, and that's what they were doing for this game throughout, like, 50%, even probably even more of this game is Amicia whispering to Hugo, and Hugo being like, yes, oh, we have to stop them. This is awful. It's like, yes, it is awful, but goddamn, can we write some better dialogue for these characters? I know you can write better dialogue for these characters because I didn't have this complaint in the first game, Plague Tale Innocence. But in this game, A Plague Tale Requiem, I don't know what happened. Now, does this mean that I won't pick up the next Plague Tale game? No. I think that I am into the series. I do like the series. The next one is going to be like a spin-off as well. I think it's called like A Plague Tale Story or something like that. So I think that'll be an interesting concept. Get away from these characters and maybe I'm sure they'll have like Amicia show up maybe, or she'll have some part in the story for this spin-off game. But yeah, I think in general, like, the characters, they had their time. We had our time with the characters. Like, there's some emotional stuff happening at the end of the game, sure. But at the end of the day, like, I just wasn't sold on this one like I was with A Plague Tale Innocence, which is why I gave Plague Tale Requiem a C tier and a 3 out of 5. And also, I've been playing more Battlefield 6, of course. No surprise there. And Ghost of Yotei. I've been playing Ghost of Yotei too. But Battlefield 6 here and Ghost of Yotei have been kind of the other games I've been playing. I don't have anything else to say about them right now. Battlefield 6 has been a bit annoying. There's some things that they need to tweak with, like, the spawn points and stuff like that. I feel like enemies are able to push in a little bit harder than they should. With Ghost of Yotei, I've just kind of been taking that game slow. And I've just been, like, chilling out, doing these side missions, doing the bounties, doing the shrines and stuff like that, which is all stuff I talked about last week. So if you want to hear more about that last week, I'm sure next week I will have more to say about the game because I'll be much farther in it. But as of right now, as of today that I'm recording this, I really just don't have anything else to add other than the game's great. I enjoyed a lot, and I'll be putting more time into it. Don't you worry. And that'll do it for this episode today, folks. I do appreciate you for listening to this short but sweet episode. Let's go ahead and do Guess That Song, I guess. We'll keep that going. If you know the name of the song and the game that it came from, I will give you a heart down below in the YouTube comments or the Spotify comments, and I'll give you congratulations as well. Or if you come to the Discord and talk in the Ferret64 section, link down below, I will give you a super reaction, and you'll get the respect of your peers. Let's go ahead and listen to today's song right now. Thank you so much for listening once again. Sorry this is a bit of a shorter episode, but I'm still a human being. I gotta live my life, But I'm glad that I was able to at least record this small segment for the show, and I hope you enjoyed. If you want to check me out, it's all at Yemmy the Ferret, whether it be on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, etc. Yemmy the Ferret VODs channel for all the past stream replays. We are streaming on Twitch on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturdays, usually. Right now, we are heading into a new game for the spooky month, so tune in on Monday to find out what it is. We finished the Midnight Walk this past week, and I forgot to talk about it. I'll have to mark that down for next week. because I am out of time here. But yeah, I appreciate you all. Thank you so much. I am Yemmy the Ferret. I'll talk at you next week. So long. The Ferret 64 podcast is owned and edited by Yemmy the Ferret. Small sound clips used throughout the podcast were made by Yemmy the Ferret. The song in the intro and outro is Nightshade by Adhesive Wombat. The Ferret 64 logo was made by Player2P2. News sources include PushSquare.com, NintendoLife.com, and PureXbox.com. All opinions, video game related, are my own. Thank you for listening.